let's see. Sorry, y'all. I know this is going to be a slightly frustrating episode, but let's see if let's see if it took us back live. I don't even know. I don't even know. I don't think it did yet, at least. It might. It might here in a second. Oh yeah, I think it did. I think we're back live on YouTube. Maybe I can't tell. I don't know. It's infuriating. Yes. I think we are. Well, we were. Dadgum. Oh, there's. I'm just messing up this whole episode. There we go. We're back live. Okay, so we're back live on YouTube. Apologies to everybody. You know, this kind of thing happens, I guess. I don't really care for it to happen, but it happened. All right, we're back on YouTube. Everything's great. Most things are great. Yeah. I mean, the stats definitely do not indicate that we should have won that game, but we absolutely played phenomenally. And when it mattered, we converted. When it mattered, Knots didn't. So let's go over to some tweets. Let's look at some tweets. Yeah, this thing by yeah, maybe I should not play that. Okonkwo's day was unbelievable. He played so well. He had so many great saves. I defy anybody to say that we shouldn't sign him. If you're saying we shouldn't sign Arthur Okonkwo or attempt or go all out to get him permanently on our squad, I want you to come on the show and make your case for it, because that dude is killer. He's young. He is just absolutely crushing it for us. And I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be signed permanently. But if you do, come on the show, message me. We then have Mr. Sean Winter giving his reaction. I personally love Sean Winter. I think he's been part of my favorite. He's been one of my favorite parts of Welcome to Wrexham, the show. This is his 2-minute reaction after the game, and we can talk about it.
Everybody, now I've just done a 10-minute reaction video there to go on the YouTube channel, and it won't let me send it to Steve. Steve would only moan anyway because the light's not right and all this. Well, maybe, Stephen, if you're watching this, we should get back together and we should start doing the late show again. Tell him, everyone.
All right.
Tag him in this. Tell him. I want to say quick, passionate for me now. What a Wrexham performance. That was absolutely unbelievable. I thought the Wrexham fans were unbelievable. The racecourse was rocking. I haven't seen it rocking since the last time. I haven't seen it rocking like that, since the last time we played Notts County at home. Wow.
Yeah, there's something about the rivalry.
All the Parky out brigade. We just 2 wins on the bounce now, but you're still flipping moan, won't you? A couple of geezers were telling me about they didn't like the Marriott and the Bolton signing, but crap, apparently. You know who you are. Well, Marriott come on, look good again today. He looked good again in a week, and I like the look of Bolton, although he didn't come on today. Sorry, I'm talking fast. I'm trying to squeeze it in 2 minutes. Paul Mully getting his doubters. The man doesn't stop running. He's a credit to our football club, and he wears that badge with pride. Absolutely fantastic. Fletcher, fantastic. JJ, unbelievable. My man of the match was Ryan Barnett. I thought he was unbelievable, but James McLean got it. It could have gone to any of them. What a performance. Just absolutely brilliant. Notts County put it on us at first. Jody Jones for them is what a player he is, by the way. I'd love him in a Wrexham shirt. Yeah, great. Notts come out and they looked a very good side. Okonkwo kept us in it.
Yep.
But then I thought their keeper done very well as well.
Yep.
We went 1-0 up, and then we started to put it on them. We were rightly winners, rightly up at half time. Second half, Wrexham were just absolutely unbelievable, absolutely fantastic. I know I've got to go now because the 2 minute and something bad is going to come. Unbelievable from Wrexham, absolutely astonishing performance. Producer Stephen, let's get the late show going again because these people want to hear it, man. Come on, Wrexham, let's get marching up this league. Let's go win it.
I love that dude. He's so much fun. Yes, everything he said. Mullen isn't having his usual year, his usual season. Everybody knows that. Everybody understands it. He understands it. You could visibly see him getting pissed off today, frustrated with himself. I think more than anything, because everyone knows he's got the talent to do what he did the past 3 seasons. But he's just going through. He's got the yips. He's got the yips, y'all. Mullen's got the yips, and the only way to get out of it is to just keep playing and work your way out of it. So don't lose faith in Mullen. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. Yeah, Okonkwo absolutely crushed it today. I want to show more highlights, but I think it'll just get me kicked off YouTube yet again. One thing I did like that I saw was Wrexham folks posing with Macaulay Langstaff. Seems like a good dude. I like sportsmanship. I like people being kind to one another, even if you're on opposing sides. I like it when players help opposing players up off the pitch when they've fallen. I like all that kind of stuff, and I love seeing opposing players posing with our fans. So thought that was fantastic. Yeah, I think we'll get to the rest of the things I have saved here in a little while. But without further ado, we have a Notts County supporter coming on the show. His name is Luke Middup, and we have a great conversation. This is pre-recorded. The rest of this episode is live, so I'm going to leave it here. If you have any comments, I'll be happy to reply in the chats. Otherwise, enjoy my interview with Luke Middup. All right, Mr. Luke Middup, welcome to the Wrexham Texan. How are you doing today?
It's good to be back, Jake. It's good to be back. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. I think you're my first repeat guest on the Wrexham Texan.
Oh,
I'm
honored. I'm deeply touched there, Jake.
Heck yeah. I mean, I figure since, it seems like we're going to be rivals for a very long time, it might as well establish a good relationship with some of the
Well, maybe we might not be in the same division next year the way things are going, but we'll see.
Hey, up until this week, we would have agreed with you. We might not be we might not be going up.
Yeah.
It's been a rough 4 games prior to this for Wrexham. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about with Notts because y'all have gone through some changes.
It's been eventful. Yeah.
Yes.
So where do you want to start?
Let's start with the biggest one. Let's start with new head coach. Start with Stuart Maynard. First of all, what were your first thoughts when you heard Stuart was being hired?
I mean, not at all surprised. We looked at Stuart Maynard when we hired Luke Williams. So he's somebody that's been on the club's radar for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
All good. Yeah.
He's somebody that's been on the club's radar for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
He did a remarkable job at Wealdstone when you consider that they're one of, I think, the last 3 semi-professional teams in the National League. So to get them reliably mid-table in the National League is pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said on my last appearance, the sort of style and philosophy of the club comes from the owners as much as anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So Stuart Maynard he's tweaked the team since Luke Williams left. But he's not like fundamentally changed the way we play, and I don't expect him to.
Yeah. How are the players jiving with his tweaking and just that kind of shakeup?
I mean, it's been a difficult few months for Notts.
Yeah.
Because I was listening back to the previous episode we did.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I jinxed the club because I said the one thing that could stop us was injuries. And guess what? It's not like we've had a lot of injuries, but we've had injuries to the players that really matter, particularly Matt Palmer, who's out for the season with a knee problem.
Yeah, didn't that happen soon after our
Yeah, like literally, I think about a fortnight later.
Yeah.
Matty Palmer is so crucial to the way we play, not because he scores a lot of goals or even creates a lot of chances, but you look at a heat map of where he covers in a game, he covers every blade of grass.
Yeah.
He is the lower league version of an N'Golo Conte type player. He's like having two players in midfield rather than one.
Right.
Essentially. So losing him's been really bad because what that's done is opened us up a lot more than we should be. I mean, we always play in a very sort of open, risky way, but the last few months have just been ridiculous. Like, a lot of people put the blame on the central defense. I don't so much because of the sheer amount of work they're being asked to do. It's inevitable that we're going to concede goals.
Right.
So I think one of the things Stuart Maynard has done is played us a little bit deeper, been a bit more pragmatic. Basically, I think he's recognised correctly that if we don't stop conceding goals, our season's going nowhere.
Right.
Because, you know, we're still one of the highest scoring teams in the league, but we're also the team that concedes the most outside of like Colchester, Forest Green, and Doncaster, I think.
Okay.
So we desperately need to tighten up at the back.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's definitely a big deal. And yeah, I mean, like you said, injuries will can define the rest of your season depending on who gets injured and how long they're out. And I mean, y'all have definitely had a rough couple of months. Your December was brutal.
It was really, really brutal. And I mean, that wasn't helped by what was going on with Luke Williams.
Right.
Because he's moved on. He's become the new coach at Swansea. I have no way of knowing this. I have no way of knowing whether this is true, but the rumor is that he and Swansea were in quite a long negotiation behind the scenes before there was an official approach by Swansea to Notts.
He kind of alluded to that in his exit interview, saying it was a long process and he'd been like people had been showing interest for a while. I feel like he kind of alluded to that.
So I mean, I think that had to be disruptive.
Yeah,
and we just haven't played as well as we did during the first half of the season. I think that is at least in part because, again, like I said in the previous episode, our plan B is to do plan A better, which is fine. But I think teams have to some extent worked out how you play us.
Yes.
Now, so I think what Stuart Maynard has to do, without abandoning his principles and the way the owners want the team to set up, we do need a plan B. I mean, we've got a guy we signed in January who didn't start today because he's only just arrived. A guy called Abdallah Jatta, who is a teammate of Jacob Mendy in the Gambian national team.
And news about that. Okay.
And he looks like he might be what we need because he's big, he's tall, he's quick. And if we have to play the ball upfield quickly, he seems like the kind of player who can hold a ball up really well.
Okay, and he just got there, so he wasn't able to play today.
Yeah, he literally arrived in the country on Thursday. So,
oh wow!
Yeah,
that'd have
literally just got here. So yeah, and I mean the other thing is we've spent more money on him than we spent on a player in a long time. When I read the Danish article on Google Translate, it said about 1.1 million kroner, which if you put it into a currency converter is about 130,000 quid. Okay. 130,000 pounds, so about $150,000. There or thereabouts. So that's more than we've spent on a player in a good long while.
Yeah, we're kind of used to that over in Wrexham. You know, we we tend to pay top dollar.
Yeah. You don't need to rub it in, Jake. Be classy,
You know,
be
it
classy.
has its good things and bad things. I don't always like having a ton of money. Like obviously there are times when it's nice, especially if you're competing with different teams for one really good player. But if you have a lot of money to throw around, it has the tendency to be used improperly or like quickly. You know, like there are some players that we've signed that I didn't know why we signed. I still don't know why we signed, and we paid a lot of money for them. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, it is a good thing to have a lot of money. So.
I mean, I thought you guys had a very solid transfer window, actually.
Yeah,
I like Luke Bolton and Jack Marriott. There is a hell of a player in there somewhere.
Yes.
Because he played for Derby. Derby's the next city over from Nottingham, so we have the same local news.
Okay.
So I watched a lot of highlights of Derby over the years.
Yeah.
And Jack Marriott, particularly, there was one playoff game in the Championship against Leeds.
Okay.
He absolutely ripped Leeds apart.
Nice. He is.
So
man.
Yeah. So he's not repeated that form over the last few years, but if you can find the player that's in there, he is way too good for League Two.
Yeah, that's kind of what I gathered. I kind of feel like he's had a bad streak recently, but that he's still plenty young enough and fit enough to make a comeback and do what he was doing.
And I mean, my guess is that Parkey and Sean Harvey and Les Reed have looked at it and said, if we can find that player, we're going to be, he's going to be the best player at the club. If we can't, it's not the end. It's not the end of the world. We shake hands and move on at the end of. We'll shake hands and move on at the end of the season.
And even in his current form, he's still better than some of the players we've already got. So it's not that bad. Let's talk about some of y'all's signings. I've pulled up some of y'all's articles here. Here's Charlie Colkett. What do you think of him? I know.
I mean, Charlie Colkett is an interesting one. He's not played that many games at Crewe. He was excellent as an academy player at Chelsea. He's kind of lost his way.
Yeah.
He's kind of lost his way since being released. It wouldn't be the first time we've signed that kind of player. Dan Crowley fits that profile. The player we've signed that I'm really excited about is Scott Robertson of Fleetwood, who was a direct replacement for Matty Palmer. He came in. We sort of had to throw him straight into the team, which wasn't ideal. You could tell he was getting settled. You obviously have to move house from a different part of the country. Didn't know anybody,
right?
But he's starting to look like he could be a quality player. He was excellent on Tuesday night against Newport.
Nice.
And that was one of the best Notts performances I've seen since Christmas. So. Yeah, I really like the look of Scott Robertson. I think he will be a good player. I think he provides interesting competition when Matt Palmer is back next season, because they are very similar players. So I can't imagine you would play them both in the same team.
Right. That's always my biggest issue with signing good players who are filling in for a position where we already have a player that I'd love.
Yeah, but we desperately needed somebody to play that position. So I don't think we had much choice in the end.
What are your thoughts on like a player getting injured, a new player either signing on or taking their spot while they're injured, and then that substitute player playing so well that the starter doesn't get his job back?
It's a risk, and I'm sure Matt Palmer is sort of thinking about that. I wouldn't imagine they're on anything like comparable salaries, to be honest. So I think when Matt Palmer is back, from Notts' point of view, you would either have to play him or get rid of him, and I can't see a world in which we'd want to get rid of him.
Right.
Because he would just be earning too much money to be sitting.
Right.
To be sitting on the bench.
For sure.
like I said, I'm really interested to see what Abdallah Jatta looks like when he gets up to speed. He's done very well in the Danish Super League. We've signed him from Viborg, which is a club that our owners are minority shareholders in.
Oh wow. Okay.
So we do. They do know him. They do know him very, very well. Actually, can I just go on a mini rant here because I really need to get this off my chest. So obviously with what happened last season, I follow a load of Wrexham social media, and obviously the algorithm has picked up that I follow a lot of Wrexham stuff. So I got, during January, I got a lot of like clickbaity headlines on all these players that Wrexham were going to sign. And, the articles are what they are. They're clickbait. But what was really interesting was reading the comments below. It's going, we want to sign Lawrence Shankland. Yeah, we want to sign Macaulay Langstaff. Yeah, we want to sign Jody Jones. And it's like, guys, no. Like, if you wanted to sign Macaulay Langstaff offers, you'd have to pay us £3 million just to get in the room.
Right.
Like the same with Lawrence Shankland. Like Hearts are competing in Europe, for crying out loud.
Right.
This is a Scottish Premier League player in his prime. Like you'd have to pay £2-3 million. And like Wrexham's turnover is £20 million. That wouldn't be Robin Ryan being ambitious. That would be Robin Ryan taking leave of their senses. It's just like,
dude, I completely agree. When I forgot who told me, but somebody said some rumor about Macaulay Langstaff coming to Wrexham, and I was like, "You're a lunatic!" Like that.
Yeah,
there's no way that's going to happen.
And I hope they go into this in the documentary because it's going to be really important going forward. Wrexham is subject to this profit and sustainability rule now. So it's not just a question of what Rob and Ryan are willing to put in. They are, without getting too far into the weeds on this, what the profit and sustainability rules say is you can only spend a certain percentage of turnover on what they call football operations, which is basically the men's first team and the associated coaching staff. So stuff like the redevelopment of the COP, or the women's team, that doesn't get factored into that calculation.
Okay.
But there is like it's a soft salary cap basically because it's not capping the amount you can pay any individual player, but it is capping the overall amount of money you can spend on transfers and salary.
Interesting.
And that's done over a 3-season calculation. So this is the first season. And Sean Harvey, as managing director of the EFL, helped write those rules.
Right. So he probably knows them better than
anybody. So he knows better than anybody. Wrexham don't want to get to January 2025 not looking like they're going to hit that number.
Right.
Because if they get there, they've only got 3 choices. You either sell players in a fire sale, you raise ticket prices, or you get more sponsorship. Now, given the sponsorship Wrexham have already got, I doubt that won't be easy.
Correct.
Raising ticket prices is never popular.
No, the fans would revolt, and Ryan and Rob have already said they have no intention of doing that. So
and and sell it. And the thing is, if you need to sell players, that gets out very quickly that the reason you're selling them is that you're not going to make the profit and sustainability number, and that means that that means it's a fire. That means it's a fire sale.
Yep. People are going to
and I've seen teams taken apart and sold for scrap.
Right.
Trying to hit that number. It's what's happened to Wolves this year. It's what happened. It's what's happened to Sheffield United.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. It used to be that those rules, you got a small fine and a slap on the wrist. But the thing is, the league worked out that wasn't a deterrent to clubs spending money they didn't have.
Right.
So now they've started really enforcing it, and you
Mm.
get points deductions.
Wow.
This is what's taken Derby into League One. Reading have been affected by this. Everton have been affected by this. Probably the biggest
Interesting.
casualty of this.
Yeah.
So the league and the government are really cracking down on this. So these PSR rules aren't just there for show anymore. They are being enforced.
Huh.
And so I think a lot of Wrexham fans were making fun of these posts, but I think people that maybe come into this with the documentary need to realize it's not just up to what Rob and Ryan can afford anymore. It's not up to what they are prepared to put into the club. It is for stuff like the COP redevelopment or redeveloping the training ground or stuff like that, because that's not calculated as part of PSR. But in terms of transfer fees and salary, they are now operating under the same set of rules as every other club.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. It's not completely up to them anymore what they do with the club. There are rules you have to go through to get to that top level, and as you move up. So, yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, should we get into the game a little bit? I mean, so
if we must, yeah.
So just so everybody knows, there was a problem with the stream for Notts County fans. So none of the fans got to watch the game, and so Luke didn't get to watch it, but he did listen to it. So, well, first off, let's talk about the lineups. I want to know if you had any issues with
no, that's
starting lineup.
That's basically the strongest team we can possibly put out at the moment. The interesting issue is that during the game we switched from a back three to a back four, back to a back three.
Interesting.
Again, so I think Stuart Maynard is still trying to work out like the best defensive structure for Notts, but we do seem to be quite fluid in terms of whether we're playing 4 at the back or 3 at the back.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean that is the strongest team he could put out. I am like we did this weird thing on Tuesday playing Macaulay Langstaff out wide.
Yeah, he mentioned that in an interview.
Yeah, we didn't like. I can see the logic of doing that. He has played there before in his career, and he's got pace and he's got touch.
Yeah.
But for me, you put the most deadly striker in the league. You put him between the stick.
Yeah.
So he's playing the width of the goal, basically.
Yeah.
And I do think this has been one of the issues we've been having with this drop off in form. Is that Langstaff keeps coming back into midfield looking for the ball. Like he's not getting the ball played to him, so he's getting frustrated. He's coming back. He's trying to find it.
Yeah.
And that means he's just not in position. He's just not far enough up the pitch to score the goals anymore. So, like, if I'm Stuart Maynard, I'm taking him to one side and saying, "Look, Macca, you don't worry about not having the ball. It's the job of the other guys to get you the ball. You stay in the position to score the goal. Wherever we are on the pitch, I want you to be the player furthest forward.
Yeah,
so,
I get that. I understand impatience, wanting to get that ball quicker, and not feeling like you're getting it quickly enough or often enough. Like that's gonna tug at any competitor's drive to go get it. Make things happen by yourself.
there's a lot of that. It's like
our lineup. I thought our lineup was pretty solid. The only one that surprised me was William Boyle. Will Boyle. He's been up and down for us. He's
been really in and out, hasn't he?
I mean, last game he basically won it for us, but like he lost us a couple games with red cards. Like he's been an interesting player. Generally Tozer would have been in there, so we lost our long thrower today, which we definitely needed. We had tons of throw-ins down on y'all's end that we needed that long throw and we didn't have it. So that was a bummer, but Yeah, should all right. I'm gonna pull up the biggest one, the biggest thing that people are gonna be talking about is this supposed or not supposed handball.
Yeah, I did have a chance to see this before we started
Yeah.
recording.
It's hard to see. It's just gonna be a repeating clip, 2 seconds. And it does hit the top of his arm. It hits his bicep area. So the question is, man, so with something like this, the way I feel about it is that if they hadn't called it, Wrexham would have had an argument. And if they did call it, Notch has the argument, you know? So like one way or the other, somebody's going to be pissed off.
Yeah, well, I am extremely pissed off, Jake. Because that's just not a handball. It just it just isn't. I mean, like you say, from what I can see, it hits his bicep.
Hit
Like
right about there.
yeah, like I mean, the rule is if it's above the t-shirt line, so if it's above the line of where an average t-shirt goes, then it's not handball.
So I guess it depends on where an average t-shirt. If you're wearing cutoff shirts,
yeah,
way below the line, Luke.
yeah, shut up. Oh, and I mean that was annoying. Langstaff should have scored in like the first minute.
Yeah,
like the sounds of it. There was a diving header that he should have put away. Okonkwo made several good saves. He is such a good keeper for you guys.
Yes,
I do not understand why some people are getting on his case. He's a remarkably good keeper for League Two,
and he's so young. Like it astounds me how people are railing on that guy because he has made saves that no other goalie we've had over the last 5 seasons could have saved.
No, I mean this is the thing, enjoy him while you've got him because my sense is that somebody at Arsenal has marked him down as as their long term.
Gosh, I really
keeper, possibly.
we're all, or not all of us, but the vast majority of people are speaking out trying to get Okonkwo signed because that dude, he crushes it for us. This game, y'all should have scored a bunch of times. He had a few incredible saves. The highlights aren't out yet. That was a fan or somebody recorded the screen or something. So the highlights aren't out yet, so we can't go over the highlights. But in this episode, I'll have shown the highlights before our interview so people can see them. But man, I love a rivalry game, man. Like it was super fun. The energy from both teams was fantastic. Everyone played really, really well. Like we should have scored a couple more times. Y'all should have scored a couple more times. But there were a ton of misfires and a ton of great saves.
Yeah. And I mean, we've got yet another keeper because like the one thing I thought we didn't need to sign in January was another keeper, but we went out and signed Luke Ashby-Hammond off Crawley. Now personally, I'm a big Sam Slocum fan, but I will say this: Luke Ashby-Hammond is very good with the ball at his feet. And he does something I've very rarely seen goalkeepers do, which is he kicks with both feet, or he is equally comfortable kicking with both feet. Like most goalkeepers can do it, but they definitely favor one foot or the other. As far as I can tell, he is genuinely ambidextrous, which I really have not seen that very often.
So what's the benefit of him starting over Slocum?
I think it's that he is better with the ball at his feet. He's not as good a shot. He's not as good a shot stopper. I don't think.
Gotcha.
But you can sort of use him in that Manuel Neuer sweeper keeper, long way up the pitch. Role,
he can boot the ball too.
Yeah, he really can. He's got, and he didn't. I don't think you saw it so much in this game, but certainly at the Newport game, he can do that with accuracy. He can do that with accuracy. He can do that with accuracy as well. So it's kind of weird because the meat and potatoes of being a goalkeeper, i.e., stopping shots and claiming crosses, I think he's probably the weakest of the three
Okay.
we've got. But
Yeah.
in terms of being an all-round player and actually setting attacking moves up, he's probably the best. So
Okay.
it really does depend what you want out of your goalkeeper, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought he did well today. The one goal that we got was off a crazy ricochet, and Fletcher just kind of fell backwards and tapped it right up into the upper, like right up there. There's almost
there was nothing he could do about that. But that's just one of those things where it reminds you that Stephen Fletcher was once signed for 12 million quid. Because his pace is gone. He's nowhere near as quick as he used to be.
Yeah.
But good grief, the man has the reactions of a housefly.
He's incredible, dude.
Yeah.
He's been one of the best signings we've had recently. And yeah, you're right. He doesn't have the same pace, but dude still is starting games and lasting like 70, 80 minutes. And
And like I say, it's just the reactions for that goal are incredible. Like it's just an instinctive thing, but it's really quick.
Yeah. You had a new signee start today, which was Jaden Warner. How have you been liking Jaden?
I mean, he is kind of on paper what we needed in terms of defensive reinforcement, in that he's big, he's quick. Because the one thing we really do suffer from is balls played over the top. You know, we really do need somebody to get out there and win that first header, that first touch on the ball.
Yeah.
He's only played a couple of games. He really hasn't played much senior football. He's mostly played in Norwich's under 23s, and I think you can tell that that's the case. There's a lot of talent there, but it's raw. He's very, very raw. There is a very good player in there, but he needs more experience. He needs more game time. He needs to be playing more senior football.
Yeah.
And so I think this. I think in the few games I've seen him in, there are things he's done that I've really liked, but there are also moments where you just go, you shouldn't have done that. And a more experienced player wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Because like under 23s football, it's not as physical. You know, the refereeing is to a much stricter standard because these are kids. You don't want them to get hurt. These are players that to some extent are still physically developing. So if you ever watch under 23s football, like refs are clearly calling fouls that would never get called in senior football. You know, almost as a protective thing. And so there are times when he's let stuff go, or he's been surprised that he didn't get a call that he was clearly never going to get. So yeah, I think he's a very good player, but I think he's got a lot to learn. Basically,
Overall, like I said, the match today I thought was really good match. I thought everybody played really well. Even the ref, I didn't think, other than possibly the handball, which I'm not going to concede that to you, but I'll keep it under advisement.
Keep it under advisement. Yeah.
He let them play a lot, which I like. I always like letting them play and not calling all these little ticky-tack fouls.
Yeah.
That some refs tend to do regularly, and it drives me nuts. He kind of like the pace of the whole game was nice compared to what I've seen a lot recently, which is a ton of yellow cards, a couple red cards, a lot of fouls being called.
I mean, the guys doing the Knots commentary were making the same point. So that's clearly not a partisan thing. It's something everybody had noted.
Yeah.
If I can just ask you a question as an outsider looking in, what's going on with Paul Mullen? Like he doesn't look to be the same player.
He's had bursts of being the same player, because I mentioned that like 3 weeks ago. But then I remembered like 3 weeks prior to that, he'd scored a hat trick. So I was like, maybe he did have that one massive injury in the offseason, which could still be nagging at him. I don't really know, but I do know that a lot of people have been getting very upset with him for flopping all the time. for just
including yourself, particularly the Bradford game.
Yeah.
I think that's the most animated I've ever heard you on the podcast, actually.
Dude, it's infuriating. Like I don't care for that side of sports in general. That's why I stopped. It's one of the big reasons I stopped watching the NBA, because people just whine about everything. How about you be a man and stay on your feet like a man and fight for the ball? That's what I want to see. No one wants to see you go down if someone just touches your shoulder. Like, no one wants to see that. So I do get really animated about that, because I just think you're being, I don't know, a little bit of a pansy if you do that over and over again. But I don't know what's been going on with him. And he probably doesn't know completely either. Or if he does, he's clearly still trying to work through a bunch of stuff. So
this is the thing. Sports people are human beings too. They have stuff going on, and they have stuff going on in their lives. Like the best recent example I can think of that from a Knots point of view is we played Harrogate just before Christmas, and Aidan Stone, our keeper, had a terrible game, an awful game, and I was cursing him. I was cursing him up and down.
Yeah.
And then Luke Williams comes out in the press conference afterwards, goes, "Yeah, it wasn't the best game Aidan's ever had, but he's had about 2 hours sleep in the last 2 days because his little girl is ill." And just like, I'm feeling like awful, because I've been cursing this guy up and down, and it turns out he's not had any sleep because his little girl is poorly, and it's like, oh, I just feel awful. There. So it's important to remember these are people, and they don't have the same resources that a Premier League footballer, a Premier League footballer would have, or an NFL player would have. These are guys earning, good middle class money, but no more than that.
Oh, for sure. And that is one thing that I always try to keep in mind, is like that happened with Ben Tozer earlier this season. His dad was sick, and no one understood why he was playing so poorly. And then it came out, well, his dad was sick. So he was going through a lot of personal stuff. So I mean, anything off the field can affect your play on the field. Just because you have all the talent in the world doesn't mean that your mentality, or just your just your mentality, like it doesn't mean that can't be affected by things that are happening off the field. And you never know, unless you follow somebody, unless you basically stalk somebody and know exactly.
You just don't know what's going on in these guys' lives.
Yeah, exactly. So a little bit of forgiveness is always a good thing. A little bit of patience. That's
so
why
Aidan, if you're listening to this, I'm very, very sorry that I was cursing you up and down.
I hope Aidan's listening to this. That'd be great. Well, what are your thoughts on rest of the season? Like, what do you think?
I have no earthly idea. I think this could go one of two ways. I mean, obviously, we're still, in terms of points total, we're still relatively close to the playoffs. Our form has not been good, to say the least. I do think Stuart Maynard is getting a hold of the team and the club. And we've played much better in the last 2 games than we played for a while. I think it's important to say as well, this is Stuart Maynard's first job in full-time management. He was while he was at Wealdstone, he was out fitting internet cable 3 days a week.
Right.
So this is a big change for him as well.
Yeah. And like you said, you're not out of the running by any stretch of the imagination.
No,
you're 1 point out of the playoffs.
But I mean, really, what needs to happen is very simple. We need to concede fewer goals, and if that means we don't score as many, that's a trade I'm willing to make. If we concede 15 fewer goals but score 15 fewer goals, we're still going to come out way in credit. Yeah. So I think there's just a sense in which a little bit of pragmatism wouldn't go amiss. Now, the issue is, do we have the players and the setup to accommodate that? Because, we're very, very used to, as a team, playing on the front foot being in charge,
Mm,
controlling games.
right.
It's do we have the humility? Do we have the wherewithal to admit that sometimes we are just going to have to sit a little bit deeper? We
Mhm,
are going to have to maybe not see quite so much of the ball,
mhm.
and we're going to have a bit more sort of positional discipline. Like there was a game, this was the game between Luke Williams leaving and Stuart Maynard being hired. There was a 5-5 draw
Right.
against Grimsby,
Yeah.
and that was just the most insane thing I'd ever seen, because you got like Kyle Cameron, the centre half, bombing forward. Like there's just you can't do that. There's nobody to hold the midfield. There's nobody at the back. It's just 40 yards. There's just 40 yards of space, and yeah, we're creating chance after chance. But Paul, we were 3-0 there. We were sort of 3-0 down in 20 minutes, and Aidan Stone was having the game of his life. Like, this is the thing. I feel so sorry for that guy, because all anybody's going to see when they look back in the records is he conceded 5 goals.
Right.
He could have conceded 12. He could have conceded 15. He was making great save after great save after great save, and you could just see the look on his face was, "Can I get some help,
Right.
please?"
Yeah. I mean, that game is a perfect like example of why a good, strong manager is needed in a game.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
because there was no direction. Like everyone
Yeah.
just playing,
Everybody.
yard
It was
ball
like watching your kids. It was like watching your kids play in the park. It was just ridiculous. Everybody was all over the place.
Yeah, that was a wild one, man. That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had predicted at the end of December that Wrexham would win the league. After our 4-game slip, I basically said, obviously if we keep playing like this, we're not going to win the league. I still am not sure we're going to win the league, especially since, I mean, just the goal differential alone.
Yeah.
Stockport 29, Mansfield 34. No one's even close to that. Those two teams are crushing it in that regard. And like, yeah, we have a game in hand against both of those teams, but we're in flux quite a bit recently, and we're getting new players involved and trying to, work them into the lineup and figure out what our new starting lineups are going to be and who the subs are going to be and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely see us still getting promoted. I just don't know if it's going to be automatic or through the playoffs at this point. So,
I mean, my view, for what it's worth, is I think it's between you and Crew.
Yes.
As to who finishes third.
Yeah.
But I don't think. I mean, finishing third is still promotion.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, Stockport were last year's beaten playoff finalists in League Two.
Mm-hmm.
They had a very good squad to start off with, and they've added to it.
Mm-hmm.
And Mansfield are our local rivals, so I know a fair bit about them.
Okay.
And John Radcliffe, their chairman, over quite a few years now, has put a lot of money into that club.
Okay.
They have spent multiple seasons putting this squad together. This is where I'm talking about the role that PSR plays. You can't always sign all the players you want in one go. You have to do it over multiple seasons. And the thing is, Mansfield now have 3 quality players in every position.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is that a very good squad, but it's a very, very deep squad. They can get 5 or 6 injuries and keep coming.
Interesting.
So yeah, I don't think Wrexham are going to get past Mansfield and Stockport. I think it's between you and Crew.
Yeah.
For the final automatic promotion place, and I would make you favourites for that, simply because that Crew squad is a very good squad, but it's a very young squad.
Yeah, that is true
as well.
Yeah.
So you guys have definitely got the experience.
Yeah.
On them.
As far as relegation, you think it's going to be Forest Green and Sutton?
Yeah, I really can't see anybody. I mean, Forest Green have been horribly mismanaged this year. They've gone through coaches like most people go through underwear.
It's been rough watching that.
It's been rough. And I mean, Sutton have overachieved by being in the league at all. Sutton are a National League team playing in League Two. So I thought sacking Matt Gray was. I can see why Sutton did it, but I thought it lacked class because they've been majorly overachieving for like 4 seasons, and gravity was always going to catch up with them eventually.
I gotcha. Well, Luke, man, it's a pleasure having you on again. I really enjoy chatting football with you.
Okay. It's been great. It's been great talking to you, Jake. I'm sorry I didn't see the game. So
it's all good. You don't like the outcome, so you wouldn't have liked,
I wouldn't have liked watching it anyway.
Yeah. Good luck if you watch the highlights or the replay or whatever. But
and maybe we'll see you in the playoffs. Maybe we won't.
Maybe you will. That could definitely happen. That would make for an epic showdown.
That would make for a great episode. Oh, by the way, I was reading the next series of Welcome to Wrexham is going to be much closer to the end of the season.
Yeah, it's mid-April.
Yeah, so they're doing like 12 one-hour episodes instead of editing it down into half-hour episodes. What do you think of that?
This is the first time I knew it was coming out in mid-April, but I hadn't started researching it yet. So I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical because I didn't like the last season. I liked 5 or 6 episodes out of the 14 or whatever. I had major issues with season 2 of the show. And so I'm hesitant to put myself fully into
I know what you mean
at this point, because I had a problem with my biggest comparison for it is Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso first season is one of the best seasons of TV maybe ever written. And season 2 and 3 were some of the worst things I've ever seen as far as like complex, real human writing. And it was horrendous. And so I feel like season 2 of Welcome to Wrexham lost the
thread of the story, basically.
Yep. Lost the plot completely, because it should have been a season about us and Notts County, and because it's the biggest season in 15 years for the team.
Although I will say that final episode, the episode where you go up, I had such a lump in my throat with that episode, because it actually has quite a bit of Notts in it.
Yeah, it
they
did.
were interviewing Macaulay Langstaff, they were interviewing Kevin Scott, they were interviewing Luke Williams, and by the way, just like, I knew Luke Williams was going to go eventually, but why did he have to go now? Like, why couldn't he have waited till the end of the season when he could say goodbye properly and we could say goodbye properly? And this is the thing, like, I have nothing against Stuart Maynard.
Yeah.
I think he's a good coach, but it is kind of like being introduced to mum's new boyfriend a little bit. he's not my real dad. Like, I want Luke Williams back.
Right. Yeah, that is such a good analogy. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, hour-long episodes, I don't have a problem with it because it's not a comedy. I have a problem with comedies that extend their episodes. I don't know. It's weird to me that it's coming out so soon. I don't really know what the subject matter is going to be for all 12 episodes.
I mean, I think it actually makes sense because you can sort of do this, the review of the season while the season is still fresh.
Yeah.
In people's memories. I think that's why they're doing it that way. And
I guess if they're not going to release all the episodes at once, which I doubt they're going to do because they did that last season, then by the time it gets to the final episodes, they will have been able to edit.
Yeah, I think that's what they've got in mind.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it, honestly, to keep it fresh. There is an argument to be made for putting it out right before the next season so people get rehyped about it.
Yeah.
But I understand this, especially since we are actually in the league now. More eyes are watching. More people might be drawn to the documentary if they can advertise for it during the season. So,
I mean, actually, it was one of the interesting things following Knots on Twitter today. Like how many people were commenting, you know, how many cameras they were there actually, you know, people getting interviewed and stuff. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's cool. It's a weird aspect of this whole ride, but
it's a little
the main reasons that I got involved with this. So it's got good sides and downsides. So well, Luke, again, thanks, man.
No worries, Jake. Maybe I'll
shout out your stuff. Shout out your stuff. Your podcast.
Actually, so there are a couple of podcasts I do, but both of them are on hiatus.
Okay.
Both of them are on hiatus at the moment. So there's a podcast I do called Wool Shift Dust, which looks at various sci-fi, fantasy stuff on TV. That's on hiatus at the moment because my co-host Alicia is not very well at the moment. So hopefully it'll be back soon, but she's had a period of poor health. And the other podcast I do is just talking with some mates from uni. That's on hiatus because we all have very busy lives and nobody is paying us to podcast, unfortunately.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll send you the links, but neither of them are particularly busy at the moment.
Gotcha.
So,
I have the links. They'll be in the episode description. So,
okay.
Yeah. But yeah, again, Luke, thank you so much. Looking forward to us maybe playing you on the playoffs. Hopefully we don't have to do that though. That would be great.
Oh, can you imagine?
All right. Well, yeah, we'll see you next time. We're going to make this a tradition. You're going to come on sometime around whenever we play whenever we play each other from now.
Okay. On. Well, that assumes we're going to be in the same division, Jay.
I'm assuming we are. Let's stay positive, Luke.
Okay. Let's stay positive. I'm positive.
Oh, perfect.
All right.
All right, y'all. That was Luke Middup, Notts County fan, Notts County supporter. Great dude. Always love chatting with him. Looking forward to hopefully the next time we play Notts and he can come back on the show and we can do it all over again. Maybe next time. I mean, hopefully not, but maybe next time he'll actually be happy about the results. Let's finish up by talking a little bit more about Wrexham, about some stuff that happened yesterday. A lot of people furious about this Lee confrontation. The tweet says, and I'm going to read it like how I imagine Lee Morgan, the guy who tweeted it, is saying it. So here we go.
Gets grabbed by the throat. Yellow card for both players. Ref and linesman were pathetic yesterday.
So that's basically how I imagined him writing that. It's an idiotic statement. As Josh points out right below, first comment, why are you lying? Robertson pushed Lee over when he was on the counter. And when we were on the counter, and did the same thing with Cannon when Cannon was trying to track back. 100% correct. And he says he's grabbing him by the neck. There's no hand around anybody's neck right here. He's got him by the jersey. He's got him by the kit, the top. So, yeah, I mean, just dumb all around. So that happened. And then this was super interesting. All right. So Aled Roberts on Twitter says, was feeling curious how both players were faring after Fletcher scored yesterday this season. One would have cost us $500K, while the one who is with us was a free transfer. Talking about Luke Armstrong and Stephen Fletcher. So Stephen Fletcher, age 36, Luke is 27, height, same height. Their FOTMOB rating, Fletcher is 6.87. Luke is 6.27. Fletcher's played 659 minutes to Luke's 630. Fletcher's played in 19 matches. Armstrong has played 7. Fletcher has scored 7 goals. Luke Armstrong has scored 1. Now, to be fair, Armstrong is in League One. And who knows? Armstrong could have done just as well for us if he'd have played, we'd have closed that deal before the deadline at the beginning of the season. However, looking at that is super interesting. The fact that Fletcher is absolutely crushing it for us. I mean, 7 goals in 19 matches. He's so clutch, and he makes goals that are impossible for most people. He puts them in the back of the net somehow, and it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to watch. All right. Yeah. I mean, what more can we say about Fletcher? I wanted to show more highlights of Fletcher. I wanted to show his highlight goal again, but apparently I'll get suspended. My stream will get suspended if I show highlights. I got to figure out a way around that because that's just idiotic. All right. Let's look forward. Here's the table currently. Stockport still up there at number 1. Mansfield nipping at their heels, 61 and 60 points, respectively. We're at 58, so we're only 1 game out, and we have a game in hand on Stockport. So technically speaking, we definitely still can win the league. Now, if we keep up how we were playing the last 2 games, then there's a real shot at that happening. However, I appreciate you going over to Rumble. We are Wrexham. Yeah, I was somehow able to get it back on YouTube. I don't really freaking YouTube. Anyway, yeah, we're duking it out with Crew, MK Dons, who we play. We'll get to that in a minute. Who we play on Tuesday. They're right behind in 5th, and then Barrow, Harrogate Town, and Notts is down in 9th. So let's see. Gillingham, Morecambe, Notts, Wimbledon, and Harrogate are all within 1 point of each other. All within 1 point of each other. And down here, Mr. Jake Bickerstaff on Accrington Stanley, they're at 46. They're only 2 points out of the playoffs right now. How wild would it be if Bickerstaff helped his loaned team get to the playoffs and maybe even secure a promotion? That would be pretty cool. Pretty cool for him. But I think we're in a great position right now. The goal differential, as me and Luke just talked about, is substantial. We're half of what Mansfield is. We have more losses than Mansfield. Surprisingly, Stockport has the same amount of losses as we do. We are both teams are 7-7 on draws and losses. And yeah, we have that 1 game in hand on Stockport. So it's interesting. Name one in particular that you thought he had very poor takes on Wrexham. I like Luke. I didn't have a problem with any of his takes. He's a Notts supporter. You know, he's not going to have the entire story on Wrexham because he's biased towards Notts, and it is what it is. Interesting. Yeah, if Accrington makes playoffs, I want them to win. If not, I want Notts in and winning the playoffs. Completely agree. 100%. I would love it, unless obviously we drop down to playoff level, and then absolutely I would rather us destroy Notts County in the playoff. I would love a Notts County Wrexham championship game, or 4th place championship game, whatever we call it. That would be it would be a very interesting event. It would definitely, if we won that game, it would just put our mark on it. It'd be like, yes, we are better than Notts. We're moving up, and they get to stay in this league for another year. So interesting one, to say the least. Whoops, I forgot to there we go. I'm back on. Interesting. Okay, talking about financial fair play, our revenue is way above our wage spending. We could double it at the moment. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's I barely know anything about that side of the rules of football, so that is not particularly my strong suit at this point. Eventually I will learn all of that. So I'm not, I don't really keep up with how much we're paying players, or, what our salary cap is or anything like that. So that's not my strong suit. So I couldn't correct him, whatever he said, and people can draw their own conclusions from it. So, yeah, if that's the case, if we actually could double it at the moment, then I think we're in pretty good shape. Let's talk about MK Dons, because that's who we play coming up. Dadgum, get on the screen. There we go. So we play coming up on Tuesday. It is, I believe it's a rescheduled game from a FA Cup or maybe a weather event. Let's see. MK Dons is 5th. They have 16 wins, 6 draws, 10 losses, 54 points. Their goal differential is 8, which is half of ours at 16. They've won 4 out of their last 6. We've won 3 out of our last 6. It is at MK Dons. And of course, they are the ones who, they're the ones who beat us on our league debut after 15 years of being out of league. So I would love a little bit of revenge, because they beat us at the race course, which is always painful. Doesn't happen all that often. So when it happens, it's significant. What is my prediction for this game? I think it's 2-0. I think we beat them 2-0. They beat us 5-3 last time. That is not going to happen again. Foster was our goalie back then, and it wasn't too long after that he decided to retire once and for all. And it's because he was a little slower. There were definitely balls he should have gotten in that game. I think Okonkwo will be perfectly fine against MK Dons. They do have some good players. So I'm interested to see how we match up with our newly signed players. So that'll be interesting. But I think we're going to win 2-0. That is my prediction for the MK Dons game on Tuesday. I just said it like a Southerner. Tuesday. All right. Then the Gillingham game. This coming weekend is my birthday weekend. I will be at a cabin in the middle of nowhere in Georgia, just hanging out with a few friends, and I'm going to force everyone to watch the Gillingham Wrexham game and just enjoy us destroying Gillingham. I am very biased. I'm going to pick a very ridiculous score because we are playing away. They are 11th. They've won 14 times, drawn 5 times, and lost 13 times. So they've lost almost as many times as they've won. Their goal differential is -8, and they have 47 points. Somehow they have 47 points. It's because they're not drawing as often. That's wild. That's wild how that works. Okay. I think that we will destroy them. 4-0. 4-1. I'm going to say 4-1. 4-1 away at Gillingham. I know our away record has not been great and generally isn't great, and I just picked 2 away wins. Should I have done that? Yes, I should. I'm staying positive. That's what's going to happen. I'm picking us to beat Gillingham on Saturday, February 24th, 4-1. That is my prediction, and that's what I'm sticking with. Yeah, and you're right. You're right about it. It is interesting. Like, I understand why he doesn't think we can win the title, even though 1 game in hand. I personally have a weird feeling of that as well. It's not really based on anything, and that could change in the next week. So I don't know. There's something about how well Stockport and Mansfield are playing right now that just leads me to suspect we might not win the league this year. Yeah, no, I know we haven't scored 4 away all season, but it's my birthday weekend, so that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm picking. 4-1. I know we haven't scored that many goals. It is what it is. I want fireworks. I want to be able to scream in the woods and no one hear me. That's what I want. So that's what I'm going for. That's what I'm putting out into the world. Let's see what Wrexham and the squad can bring back for me. All right, y'all. We are Wrexham. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for commenting. I really appreciate it. On Sundays, it's hit or miss whether or not people are going to tune in live to these things because people are with their families on the weekends. But it's the easiest time for me to be able to stream this, and it's directly after a game, directly after a match. It's one day after. It's a great time to stream this. So for those who did tune in, thank you very much. Hit me up if you have any questions. If you want to come on the show, feel free to reach out. I'm around. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, WXMTexan. You can also watch this stream on my website, PeacefulSea.network. Yeah. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. We will see you next week. Well, next week, it might be a day late, specifically because I will not be in town on Sunday. So next week might be Monday at probably evening time. Evening time here in the States and very, very, very early morning over in the UK. So thank y'all for tuning in. We will see you next week. Up the town.
Search my soul with all your heart, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it. And if you knock my soul with all your strength, you're gonna find it. You're gonna find it.